Hello and welcome to Wisdom Bites. Hope you're well. Thank you once again for joining us. Very much appreciated. And in today's absolutely packed program, I'm going to be giving you, as per the title of this video, the one thing that will change everything for Bitcoin and why we must pay attention to this. I'll be showing you a potential figure for the amount of money, the amount of liquidity that is potentially going to be entering the Bitcoin arena. I'm also going to have a look at the long-term picture by looking at the Gaussian channel, exactly where we are, and also have a look at the hash ribbons, just to give us some reassurance that on the longer term picture, we are well on course for the normal 4-year cycle with the blow-off top towards the end of 2025. I'll also come back to the 60-day cycle on the daily chart and have a look at exactly where that's developing and what we can expect over the next few weeks and months. And as you know, over the last couple of weeks, I've been going through the personal development regarding a tool that will help us in terms of giving us a template to work on. And today I'm going to show you a video which I would classify as in my top 5 of the greatest videos I have ever seen in terms of the impact it's had on my life. And I hope you'll be open to this particular subject because not many people are. And I would say that probably the majority of people will not look at this video with positivity. But it all depends on how much improvement and progression you want to make in your life. So if all that sounds interesting, then without further ado, get yourself a cup of tea, sit yourself down, eyes on the screen, and let's get cracking. Okay, before I begin, the usual polite reminder, please remember everything in my videos is just for educational purposes, so please always do your wider research before you make any investment decisions or any swing trade decisions. And please always be reminded that what I'm saying in the videos is what my thoughts are, what I'm doing or what I'm prepared to do. In no way does that constitute that you should go and do the same thing. Nobody knows what the future is, and that's why it's very important to do your wider research and come to your own conclusions, and then when you make any decisions, then to take ownership of that decision. Okay, so as per the title of the video, I'm going to start off with this particular article that was in the Cointelegraph last week. And what it was doing was highlighting something that I've been mentioning for the last few videos, or at least the last few months, in terms of what's on the horizon in terms of the ETFs. Quite a few of you asked me in terms of why I think that the ETFs will make a massive difference to the Bitcoin price, and why I think that that will change everything for Bitcoin. Well, this report really gives us some sort of an answer to that. And that is that the Bitcoin ETFs is going to potentially have another extra $600 billion to come into the market for Bitcoin. And this is according to a new report indicating this. And this amount of money would actually double the current market cap for Bitcoin. So if we scroll down here, we can see what the current picture is with the ETF applications in the USA. So far, what we've really got is that in the United States, the court directed the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, in August, and that's where we got the pump previously, to assess its denial of the Grayscale's application for a Bitcoin exchange traded fund, and why that would open the floodgates for $600 billion in new cash to enter the cryptocurrency market. So it goes on to say that despite some hurdles, market analysts anticipate potential Bitcoin ETF approval by early 2024. So this is what we really got to look forward to. So what we're really saying is that by early 2024, and if we look later on here, it says that the SEC has extended the decision period further to January 10th. So around about the middle of January is what we're really looking for. In another article that you may have read towards the end of last week, and that was really saying that the SEC was told to approve the Bitcoin spot ETF immediately. And that's why I say that between now and early 2024, anything can happen. So while the delays have been up to the January 10th in 2024, there is a pressure growing on the SEC to approve the ETFs before that date. And this particular story was really based on a group of US Congress members sending a letter to Securities and Exchange Commission chairman on Tuesday urging the agency to approve the listing of spot Bitcoin ETFs immediately. And what their argument was that the Bitcoin ETF would increase investor protection by providing safer and more transparent access to Bitcoin investments. So let's see what happens. And certainly the effect on the Bitcoin price of that news in the background has already led to these two candles so far. So we ended up last week making making a higher high from the previous doji candle here. And currently, we're only on Monday, of course, we're moving further up. But as you'll see, this may well be a fake out in the short term unless the ETF news gets more positive in the coming days and weeks. So that's where we are, and this is the reason why we have to pay attention to the ETFs. If you see the ETF being approved, you'll see that there will be a massive move to the upside here, and that is what I would expect will break the 31,000 previous high that we've had a few months ago. Okay, just want to look at the Gaussian channel on the weekly chart. It just gives us a certain amount of standing back and looking at the market from an overview, because it's very easy while we are in a chopping range between 25 and 31, it's very easy to get chopped in and out of the market. So let's just have a look at the overview from a larger time frame, and that's the weekly chart here. And as we can see, once we'd bottomed out back in 2012 and got out of the Gaussian channel, so we went from the green channel into the red channel, got out of the red channel, found the support back on the Gaussian channel, and then that was the start of the bull market, which ended at the end of 2013. Then the same cycle followed one more time. We came down into the bear market, into the red channel. Once we got out of the red channel, we came back and found support back on the top of the Gaussian trigger to go back up to the end of the bull market in 2017. So those two cycles were virtually identical from a Gaussian channel point of view. And if we have a look at the last cycle that we've had, very similar. We came back down in the bear market through the red channel, but this time we fell back into the Gaussian channel. And obviously this was the COVID-19 situation, so we could make excuses for it over here. The reason why this is actually quite important in the current cycle, when the price did come back down into the Gaussian channel, we came back up, tried to get above it one more time, but we got rejected. And that was the actual news for the COVID-19 here. So in that week and 2 weeks and what have you, around that time, it shot down all the way down to the $3,500 mark. But one thing to notice here, when we did come back up, once again, we got rejected initially at the top of that Gaussian channel, as you can see here. If we have a closer look at that, it gives us a clue as to what kind of a correction we had here. So going from the top of the Gaussian channel to the support levels here, an 11% consolidation range all the way along until we broke out. What's noteworthy is that it actually came back down to the middle of that Gaussian channel. So we got to the top there and we came back and retested the middle of that Gaussian channel. And currently, this is very similar to what's happening at the moment. So we've had this bear market down here. We've gone into the red channel and then out of it. And this was a very good sign that we could be going back up for a bigger run here. However, what's happened is we've fallen back into the Gaussian channel here, and we're just coming up now to retest the top of that, just like in the last cycle. And that level is at 28.5, which is currently exactly where we are at. So this tells me that there is a very good chance that we're going to get rejected around the 28.5. We could obviously wick up above it to 29, and I'll show you with the other analysis that I'm going to do why the 28.5 to 29 is a very high probability area for people coming in for shorts and for a pullback around those levels. And if you'll notice, the middle line at the moment currently is at 24.7. So this is the worry here, that the middle line, just like the previous cycle, is where we're going to get another retest once we get rejected at the 28.5, maybe 29. But certainly when we zoom out, we can see quite clearly that direction of travel for the Bitcoin price is towards the upside, and we're finding support on this green line, which I'll show you a little bit later on. So there's nothing in this structure that tells us that it isn't following the previous 4-year cycles. Now, I know I've shown you this chart many times before, but it really pays to keep our focus on the larger, longer term picture. And that is that if we look at the hash ribbons on the weekly chart, if we keep our focus on this hash ribbons, they haven't let us down over the last 13 years. So currently what we've got is a buy signal, which I showed you a few weeks back. And that was at the time where this actually came back down over here. But in the longer term time frame, this is still going up. If you look at the previous buy signals that we got in the hash ribbons. So currently this is what's playing out here. But if you look at the previous buy signal here, you can see that that was actually matched by this candle, and we went to the upside. The previous one to that was this one here, and that was matched by this candle, and we went up. And the previous one to that one was matched by this candle here in the middle, and that went up. And if we keep going to the left here, we'll notice that this is a very similar pattern all the way through. This blue dot caused this increase, this blue dot caused this increase, and this blue dot caused this increase. And obviously we had this COVID situation down here. But look what happened after the COVID situation. We were followed by a series of blue buy dots, which was telling us a signal that the price is about to go back up again. So that was our trigger. Once again here, this was the trigger for the upside. And if we keep moving left, you get a series of 3 buy dots here, was telling us that the market is about to take off here. With this third one, it did come back down a little bit here. And that correction from the top to the bottom was around about a 37% correction. Out of all of the dots, one dot actually caused a correction here. And if we move further on to the last few dots, right from the beginning at 2012, this buy signal led to this increase here. This one led to this increase. And it was this first one, which again was like the previous dot, that caused a little bit of a correction here. So in the last 13 years, only 2 dots led to a certain amount of a correction. However, that turned around and was the signal for a big bullish move to the upside afterwards. So virtually every single dot has been a trigger point for the Bitcoin rally for a massive upside move. So here is the overall picture here of the last 13 years. And altogether in those years, we've had 14 dots to give us a signal for the buy trigger. And the hash ribbons have proved incredibly accurate in telling us the direction of travel for the Bitcoin price. So this again, just like the Gaussian channel, is telling us that the 4-year cycle is intact and there's nothing to worry about. Okay, so I'm just going to give you my narrative on this 60-day cycle here. Okay, so basically the last few cycles, we'd bottomed out here around 24/7 in a 52-day cycle before we had this big move to the upside. And we expected this to be a right translated cycle, i.e. the halfway point here, the white dotted line, we needed to make a higher high from these highs here. And instead, after the cycle, we went into this downfall here. So what we had was a left translated cycle. So this was really a sign of things to come. But along the way, we created these levels here. At the top of that, around 30,200, and below that at around about the 29,000. And this is now going to come into play now here. But as you can see, and I've been talking about it over the last few videos now, is that we had a 68-day cycle low at this point, and it looked with a good degree of probability with the long wick at the bottom that we were on our way here, and we got this green candle, the grayscale candle as I call it, to move to the higher side. But it was not followed through. And instead what we got was a rejection down to the 25,000 level again. And what we got here was a lower low from the previous cycle low. And that tells us that this is a failed cycle. So that is a trigger point for knowing that there is an underlying weakness in this price action here. And it also tells us that there's not a lot of buyers around, and it confirms to us that the bears are in charge here. So we really need to be careful in terms of getting into trades. And so we always have to be careful about any of these kinds of counter trend rallies that's going on here. So over the weekend, just like the last weekend over here, that was rejected to the downside. So currently we're up to around about the 28.5 level. And this is a critical level now, because having had a failed cycle with a lack of momentum to carry it up to the upside, and with a lack of buyers, what we've got with this increase is really a trigger point from the weekend when the USA government had the potential to shut down, but that was averted. And that actually gave it a little bit of a push to the upside here. So this is what my thinking is, that this is just an increase without the volume. That with this development of the price action here, with this failed cycle, a left translated cycle, lack of buyers, there is a very high degree of probability that we're going to get rejected either at this level here, currently at around about 28.1, although the prices surpass that, it could leave a wick down here, or more likely, the rejection point is going to be anywhere around here between 29,000 down to 28.5. And so far, as you can see with this green candle, we've come all the way up to 28,500. So this is a very high likely point to be actually used as a shorting point for a lot of the traders. And certainly I'm not expecting it to go much above the 29,000. If it does, then we're in a different ball game altogether. Then we are in the second zone here. The first zone is between 25 and 29. This is exactly what's been happening here. And then the next zone is up here between 29 and 31. And should we get above the 29, we should expect a rejection at the 31 here. And the big if here is the fact that the ETF decision could come at any time. And if we get that decision, then all the bets are off the table. Then this price could go anywhere, all the way up to around about the $48,000 mark. So in the absence of the ETF decision, what I'm looking at is that this 31,800 is the top for this year in 2023. And that with a high degree of probability, we're going to be really going in this range until the end of the year at least, if not until the first decision comes through for the ETF in the new year. And that really is the bullish case here, because as I've mentioned over the last few weeks, should we come back and then get rejected at this 29, which is very likely, then this is the point we've got to really defend, and that is the 25,000. We must defend this. If we break this down, then the chances are we're going to go down to 20,000. But having said that, if we're expecting the ETF decision by mid-January, as long as we don't break this by then the chances of this going down reduces the probability by quite a lot. The red dotted line is the end of this current cycle around about the 21st of October. And the bullish case is really staying in this range all the way to the 10th of January here in 2024, when we're expecting the ETF decision. So what we've really got here is some good consolidation up to that point. And this pattern, this consolidation, would be a very good stepping stone for the markets to move much higher here. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to a long-term prediction. Quite a number of people do ask me, and the way I would look at it would be this, that currently we're in a channel which goes back to the 2017 top around about the 20,000 mark. And then we had this first top in the last cycle, and then we had the second top here. So that line goes all the way through. So that gives us a line all the way to the end of 2025 over here. And on the support side, we go back to 2016, and since then we've had the COVID situation here, and then the bottoming out of the current bear market at the 15,400 here. So that gives us 3 points on the support side. And I think previously, using some other indicators, I did say that the chances are that the Bitcoin price won't go much above the $100,000 mark. So it could be anywhere between 90,000 and about 115,000. I think that was around about the range that we were looking at for the end of this current 4-year cycle. But today I'm going to use the Fibonacci retracement to give us some indication of where we could be around about this time here. If we think that this trend line goes all the way, so should we make it to the end of 2025 and the price action, let's say, is anywhere around that level at the top of the trend, then we would get to around about $250,000. Now, obviously, there's no guarantee that the price is going to be around those levels at that time, because when we use the other measure here, taking the Fibonacci retracement to the top of the 69,000, which was the last all-time high, to the bottom at 15,400 here, and if we extend that to 2025, this gives us a prediction that above the 69,000, the next Fibonacci level is at the 1.272. And the chances are that we will probably get to that level there. If I just extend this line to the end of 2025, then this looks like a nice ballpark figure of the 1.272 having a confluence to the end of the 2025, as well as having a support line around here. So the Fibonacci retracement would indicate that kind of a price. But if we go to the 1.618, as we know, Bitcoin does have a very high affinity to the 61.8, and that level would be at around about the 175,000. So really, anywhere between 90 to 170 is going to be a very good prediction for the next blow off top. And of course, that will depend on the pi cycle, which is our main indicator over the last 13 years, over the last 3-4-year cycles, which has been absolutely accurate in predicting the tops. So this is what we're looking for whenever this red line and the green line of the pi cycle, where they cross, and that can be anywhere around here. So this is what we really got to wait for. That will tell us where the top will be, because if you look back, the cross of those two lines over here predicted that top at the 64,000, the previous top here at the 20,000, and previous to that there were two other tops that it predicted, all at the crosses of the red and the green line of the pi cycle, here and over here. So wherever the two lines here, the red and the green line, one is the 111 and the other is the 350 moving averages on the daily chart, where they cross, and we can see that they're aiming for around about that level anyway here. So if we take that extension, and then this is going to be coming back up again. So this is going to converge anywhere around the end of 2025. So we'll just have to wait and see, but that's where I see the thing. So anywhere between 90,000 and the 170,000, that would be the top. But if push comes to shove, and I had to give a figure, I think anywhere around the 100,000 mark is where it's going to be, because of what's happened in the previous cycles in terms of the law of diminishing returns, that the highs are getting less and less along the way. Okay, so you're probably wondering why I'm showing you the Marathon Digital Holdings chart here, which is obviously a Bitcoin miner. As you know, we run a Bitcoin Miners Club every Wednesday. We have a video exclusively to look at the opportunities for the Bitcoin miners in terms of the long-term opportunities as well as swing trades. And we get a lot of new people watching our videos, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to just let you know what we do with the Bitcoin Miners Club. Not only do we cover the Bitcoin price in terms of the 60-day cycles and then use those Bitcoin 60-day cycles to get into the swing trades. And so far, for the last 6 months, we've had 3 rounds. And in the first 2 rounds, we did get increases in our swing trades from anywhere between 35 to 80%. The current 3rd round has been more challenging and we've been stopped out twice there. So this is the kind of thing that we've been covering on the Bitcoin miners. And with the Bitcoin price being subdued over the last few months, that's given us a bit of a challenge in terms of the swing trades currently. However, as you can see with the marathon price, it has fallen from the middle of July here to the current price of around about the $8.50 mark. It's fallen by about 56%, which is about the average for most of the Bitcoin miners. So sooner or later, we're going to get a very good opportunity with the Bitcoin miners. It may not be this week, it may be in 2 or 3 weeks' time, or it may be in a month's time or what have you. But if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then you can join us with the Bitcoin miners, because this week I'm going to do a special video on Marathon Digital Holdings. Because what this Bitcoin miner is doing is that in the previous cycles, because as we came down here to the bottom of the cycle, there were about 6 to 7 points where there was a very good opportunity to accumulate the Marathon Digital Holdings all the way to the top here by using a particular tool which gave us a very good signal of when to actually do the accumulation. And the reason why that's important is that since we topped out here at around about the $83, $84 mark, those same points on the way down here have been created down here as well. And so far, as we've been going up, I've actually been able to identify, similarly, just like this down here, there are 6 or 7 points along here which give us a very strong clue as to when there will be opportunities to take profits around here at the tops. And so far, we've actually had 3 points which have replicated exactly over here, which was a clue to accumulating on the way up here. So this is what I'm going to be looking at the next 3 to 4 points before we get to the top here. So before we get to the top at around about the $83, $84, there's going to be around about 3 to 4 points along this journey here, along this journey with Marathon Digital Holdings, which is going to give us a very strong clue as to the points where we're going to be able to accumulate. So if you're interested in the Bitcoin miners and the opportunities that they present, then you can join us. But one thing I must say is that please remember, we all know that the general markets like the Dow Jones, like the Nasdaq, etc., they're all risky markets to be in. And within that, we now have the cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, which is a much more volatile asset than trading in the Dow Jones or the Nasdaq. While Bitcoin is incredibly volatile and can be very risky, what we have with the Bitcoin miners, and we must always be aware of that, is that because they are a leverage play, so on the way up, the Bitcoin miners go up by 5, 6, 7, 8 times more than Bitcoin. But conversely, to the downside, as we've seen so far, while Bitcoin has come down 20%, the Bitcoin miners have come down between 50 to 80%. So on the downside, there's a leverage play there. So what I'm trying to say is that with the Bitcoin miners, they are a high risk but high potential play. And if you're of a nervous disposition and you don't like the risk or the volatility that comes with the Bitcoin miners, then I would highly recommend you do not join the Bitcoin Miners Club. But if you're open-minded to it and want to just have a look at exactly what's happening with the Bitcoin miners, like I said, we actually cover long-term opportunities as well as short-term opportunities. All you would have to do is click the join button here, and there's also a join button in the description below. So when you click the join button, you'll see that the Bitcoin miners, the price for the Bitcoin miners is £12.99. There's no contract, there's no obligation, and you can cancel at any time, hassle-free. And on top of the videos every Wednesday, we do bonus videos as well, just in case if there is any big movements in the Bitcoin price and things happening with the Bitcoin miners. But also on the membership channel, leave lots of regular updates. I usually leave quite a number of updates throughout the day when there's a lot going on. So if you're interested in the Bitcoin miners, so with the Bitcoin miners, we're basically on this journey with the Bitcoin all the way to the end of 2025. So while we expect Bitcoin to go up to the price that I mentioned earlier on, anywhere between 90,000 plus, which would, from the current price levels, take us to around about, let's say, to 100,000. That would be about a 2.5x from where we are. The Bitcoin miners would be a leverage play on that, maybe 7, 8, 9 times, or even more than that. So that's what the journey is for us here at the Bitcoin Miners Club, over at the Bitcoin Miners Club for the next 2 years over here. So like I said, this Wednesday we'll be covering marathon and the potential 3 to 4 areas where there is a very high degree of probability of a pullback by anywhere between 20 to 40%. Okay, I'm going to move on to the personal development side. Okay, over the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at this Wheel of Life, which is a self-assessment tool to improve ourselves and to work on ourselves to be the best version of ourselves on the various 8 or 9 areas like here, the career, the finance, the personal growth, health, fitness, attitude, family, all that kind of thing. And as I mentioned from the beginning, just like a car needs a road to get from A to B, and the train needs a railway track to get from A to B, as human beings, we don't really have a track. And what this Wheel of Life does is it actually provides us with our equivalent of the track to get us from where we are to where we want to be. And the main reason why most people don't get to where they really want to get to is because they don't really have a clear pathway that they can see of how to get there. And this Wheel of Life really provides us with that. And the techniques we use here is basically that if you take your health, for instance, here, then you have a score between 0 from the middle to 10. And at each point, I gave you something last week, which was called the 4 Ds of how to actually get from point 1 to point 2 to point 3 to point 4 by using the technique of the 4 Ds. And the 4 Ds, if I remind you, are the desire, the decision, the determination, and the discipline. Those 4 Ds will get you up the ladder, and the video that I showed you with Brian Tracy gives you the way how to do that. So please go and watch that video, which will give you the insight into how to use the 4 Ds. But today I'm going to show you another video, which, as I said at the beginning of this video, that is probably in the top 5 of my videos that I've ever watched in my life. And I can tell you that I watch between 30 to 40 videos every single day, and I've done that for the last 15 years. But it's a subject matter which is very touchy, and I can tell you some of the conversations I've had around this particular topic of this video that I'm going to show you. The reluctance of people to follow the message in this video is absolutely alarming to me. But I'll let you make up your own mind. Please keep an open mind to it, and you may not agree with the message of this video, but I can tell you that when I put this into practice about 20 years ago, it completely transformed my life and gave me a clarity and a clear pathway that nothing else could match it.
The greatest human goal is peace of mind, and the greatest obstacle to peace of mind is anger and blame aimed at other people. In order to eliminate anger and blame, you have to learn to forgive. And there are 4 people that you need to forgive if you're really serious about changing your life and learning how to live in the present. The first people you have to forgive are your parents, living or dead. You must absolutely forgive them for every mistake they ever made in bringing you up. At the very least, you should be grateful to them for giving you life. They got you here. If you're happy to be alive, you can forgive them for everything else. Never complain about them again. Many of my seminar participants have phoned or visited their parents after the seminar and told them that they forgive them for everything and for every mistake they ever made bringing them up. Often, this simple act of courage and character on your part has had a profound effect on their relationship with their mother or father. From that day onward, they become good friends with their parents, which then lasted for the rest of their lives together. On the other hand, by not forgiving your parents, you remain forever a child. You block your own chance to grow up and become a fully functioning adult. You continue to see yourself as a victim of your parents, a victim of your childhood. And even worse, you keep your negative feelings of inferiority and anger alive inside yourself. If your parents die without your having forgiven them, it can bother you for the rest of your life. The second persons you must forgive are the people from your marriages or relationships that didn't work out. These intimate relationships can be so intense and so threatening to your feelings of self-esteem and self-worth that you can become angry and unforgiving toward these people for years. But remember, you were at least partially responsible for the relationships in your life that didn't work out. Have the personal strength and integrity to say those magic words, "I am responsible." And then think of ways that you were responsible for the relationship rather than thinking of reasons why the other person is to blame. Forgive the other person and let him or her go. Say these words, "I forgive him or her for everything, and I wish him or her well." Each time you repeat this, the negative emotion attached to the memory will diminish, almost like turning down the heat on a pot. It gets cooler and cooler, and soon it will be gone forever. Many of my seminar graduates have found that the letter is the key to putting a bad relationship behind them forever. This is a powerful technique that I learned many years ago and that can free you from feelings of anger and resentment almost instantly. It can liberate you from the negativity of a past relationship in a matter of seconds. Here's how it works. What you do is you sit down and you write the other person a letter of forgiveness. This letter consists of 3 parts. First, you say, "I forgive you for everything you ever did that hurt me." Second, you write out a description or list of every single thing that you're still angry about. Some people write several pages in this part, what you did, what you said, what you didn't do, and so on. They get it all on paper. And third, you end the letter with these words, "I wish you well." You then take the letter to the mailbox and drop it in. Or if you're using email, and I prefer to do it on paper, if you're using email, press send. At that moment, you will feel a huge sense of relief and you'll be free at last. By the way, don't worry about how the other person might react. This is not your concern. Your goal is to free yourself. It's to regain your peace of mind and to get on with the wonderful life that lies ahead of you. Now, the third person you must forgive is everyone else in your life who has ever hurt you in any way. Let them go. Forgive every boss, every business partner, friend or crook or betrayer who has ever caused you grief of any kind. Clean the slate and forgive and forget. Wipe away each of their names and wipe the images off by just saying whenever you think of them, "I forgive him or her for everything and I wish them well. I forgive them for everything and I wish them well." You just repeat this statement every time you think of the other person or situation until the negative emotions actually disappear. It's the most amazing darn thing. Again, when you start to say it initially, when you think of the other person and they make you mad, you won't see much of a reaction. But as you keep saying it, "I forgive them and wish them well. I forgive them and wish them well," your temperature goes down and down and down. And like a fire with no fuel, it finally goes cold and all the emotion is gone. The fourth and final person you have to forgive is yourself. You must absolutely forgive yourself for every silly, senseless, wicked, brainless, thoughtless, or cruel thing that you've ever done or said. Stop carrying these past mistakes around with you. That was then, and this is now. Think of it this way. When you did those things in the past that you still feel badly about, you were not the person that you are today. At that time, you were a different person. You were younger and less experienced. You were not your true self as you are today. You were an immature version of the person that you have become with experience. So stop beating yourself up for something that occurred in the past, something that a different person did, not you, and something that you cannot change. Just say the words, I forgive myself for every mistake I ever made. I am a thoroughly good person, and I'm going to have a wonderful future. Even better, you can add the words, I love myself unconditionally. When you love yourself unconditionally, you let yourself go. Now, whenever you think of that past event or situation or person that you hurt or did something untoward to, just repeat, I forgive myself completely. And then get on with your life. Focus on the future rather than the past, and don't look back. Look at where you're going rather than where you've been. And finally, if you did something that hurt someone and you still feel badly about it, you can go to that person or write and apologize. Just tell the person you're sorry for what you did or said. Whatever his or her reaction, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. The very act of repentance, of expressing regret, will set you free. Please visit www.briantracy.com, my newsletters, to sign up for my free weekly newsletters and my goal-setting guide. That goal-setting guide, by the way, is neat. You can use it to plan the next year of your life.
Okay, so I hope you found some value in that video. And the way I used those three components, the first component is this wheel of life. And the second component is that you've got to clear your mind. Have absolutely clarity in your mind without any baggage. Now, you may laugh at this particular picture, but I can tell you that the vast majority of people in this world, forget about the UK, but in this world are walking around with a bag full of negative thoughts, bad feeling, grievances, anger, bitterness, just like this man is with this sack here. So imagine a metaphorical sack. In your mind, you're carrying around all this bad baggage, which is preventing you from actually getting from where you are to where you want to be. And you really have to ask yourself, is it worth having bad feeling? Is it worth having bad relationships with your families, with your friends, with your relatives, all that kind of thing? Is it worth wanting to have revenge on people because they've done something bad to you, etc., etc.? So if you don't want to walk around with a bag like this in your head, which is weighing down on you, just like here, then all I would suggest is utilize this amazing opportunity to just forgive anybody and everything, so you can just concentrate on yourself, focus on yourself, on your qualities, on your skills, on your attributes, and on the goals and the targets that you have for the vision for your life, the dream that you want to achieve. We have one chance in life, so make sure you grab it and don't waste it by carrying a sack full of negativity. And I can honestly say to you that over the last 25 years, since I watched this video and obviously some follow-up videos about it just to understand a bit more about this great quality of forgiveness, I can tell you that I have absolutely no negative feeling, any grievances, any bad feelings towards anybody or anything. All I do every single day from morning till night is focus on this wheel of life. This is exactly what I've been following for the last 25 years. And I can tell you that when I first started using this back in 1999, one of the first things it did was to help me to set up my business in the legal services department. And within 3 years of using this wheel of life and using the 4Ds and getting rid of all the baggage in my head that I had at that time, all this contributed greatly to creating a multi-million-pound business. And that's starting from absolutely zero in an area I had absolutely no qualification for. And as many of you know who have been following me for a while, you'll know that my degree and my background is in economics, and yet I spent 17 years in a medical field, in pharmaceuticals, doing a job that I actually have no background in. And then I started a business in an area where I have no qualifications again, and creating a multi-million-pound business, which really took off in 2002. So by 2004, 2005, it was becoming a multi-million-pound business. I don't say that to impress anybody, only to impress upon you that this is what the possibilities are with this wheel of life and using the 4Ds. But before you even use that, to clear your mind and get rid of any baggage that you have in your mind, because I can tell you it will completely transform your life. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I hope you found value in the video. If you did, then please remember to like and to subscribe and to turn on the notification bell. And if you have any comments, questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.